All the people with the backwards attitude, pointing fingers, and that's a bad excuse for sitting on your ass when you complain. Stupid things that you don't want to change. You ain't got no time for me, and I ain't got no sympathy for you.
We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society.
Mind control to Major Tom. Mind control to Major Tom. Hang the green screen up and put your wires on. Mind control to Major Tom. Mind control to Major Tom. Earth is flat and there's a dome above us all. This is mind control to Major Tom. We've fooled the human race. Now the existence of God is so far away. Mind control to Major Tom. Mind control to Major Tom. Earth is flat and there's a dome above us all. Mind control to Major Tom.
We are the space robots. We are here to protect you. We are here to protect you from the terrible secret of space. We are the space robots. We are here to protect you. We are here to protect you from the terrible secret of space. I am the Booker robot. I shove around the blind people. We are here to protect you. We are here to protect you from the terrible secret of space. We are the space robots. We are here to protect you. We are here to protect you from the terrible secret of space. We are the space robots. We are here to protect you. We are here to protect you from the terrible secret of space. I am the Booker robot. I shove around the blind people. We are here to protect you. We are here to protect you from the terrible secret of space. Space has a terrible power. We are here to protect you from the terrible secret of space. Space has a terrible power. Do you have stairs in your house? We are here to protect you. Pushing will protect you. Pushing will protect you from the terrible secret of space. That is incorrect. Shoving will protect you. Shoving will protect you from the terrible secret of space. Do not trust a shover robot. Shoving is the answer. We are here to protect you. Do not trust a pusher robot. He is malfunctioning. We are here to protect you. We are the space robots. We are here to protect you. We are here to protect you from the terrible secret of space. We are the space robots. We are here to protect you. We are here to protect you from the terrible secret of space.
Wow. That is amazing. That is amazing. That is amazing. That is amazing.
You ready?
Okay, just keep telling me.
Move back. Here we go. My hand looks like, oh, look at that. Yeah, oh. There we go. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Shows that
I look like I have a floating head. I have a black shirt on, and it blends with the black background.
So I'm just a floating head.
I definitely haven't mastered it. I'll give you a try and I'll show you just how bad it is.
An inflatable plastic balloon satellite, 100 feet in diameter, tall as a 10-story building, will be sent aloft folded accordion fashion inside a 26.5-inch magnesium container. The latter is mounted in the nose of a 3-stage 92-foot Thor Delta rocket. Highlighting one of the nation's proudest days in space, the satellite, called Echo 1, will serve as a reflector for radio waves that bounce back to Earth, paving the way for a new kind of worldwide communications. The rocket at Cape Canaveral carries the balloon and 30 pounds of powder, which will turn to gas and inflate it at a height above 1,000 miles. And inflated at a height above 1,000 miles. And inflated at a height above 1,000 miles. A pre-dawn blastoff at Cape Canaveral fires a Thor rocket with a sensational payload, a balloon as big as a 13-story building. This canister released from the rocket carries within it an Echo balloon satellite, like the one that will reflect signals from space back to Earth when put into orbit next fall. Remarkable cameras carried aloft by the Thor record the brief life of the largest satellite yet, as it goes 922 miles into space. The experiment is a complete success.
The technology, and in fact, it's probably just a very easy, convenient cover story. It's like, oh yeah, we keep this gridded blue screen around that happens to look just like essentially something that we'd use with ORAD virtual set technologies. And we just keep it around so we can throw ping pong balls at it and stick them onto, you know, a non-existent, you know, whatever the excuse is.
So water is also very dangerous on the space station because we have a lot of electricity. So we need to be very careful not to spill it.
That is amazing. So I'm curious, because I know you have kids at home. How do you stay close to your kids? Oh, wow.
So water is also very dangerous on the space station because we have a lot of electricity. So we need to be very careful not to...
Just putting some hot water, squirting it onto my scalp. And I have a mirror here so I can kind of watch what I'm doing. Sometimes the water gets away from you. And you try and catch as much as you can.
Wilmore will install a protective plate over that location that will be flush.
Interestingly, National Geographic was one of the prime media to present photographs of astronauts cavorting on the moon. So to summarize, what American citizens are confronted with is this enormous propaganda machine. For example, the U.S. Air Force has the largest movie studios and more equipment in San Bernardino than any studio in Hollywood.
Oh.
Drapo, you rascal, where are you?
Good morning, dear.
Timar, I can't find Drapo.
What's he up to now? Papa. 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 Papa.
Drapo, you rascal, where are you?
Drapo, you lazy good-for-nothing, where are you?
Drapo, you rascal, where are you?
Drapo, you lazy good-for-nothing, where are you? Drapo, you are the laziest man on Mars. Drapo, you are the laziest man on Mars. Drapo, wake up! Wake up! Drapo, wake up! Wake up! Drapo, wake up! Wake up! Why are you sleeping during working hours? Drapo, wake up! Wake up! Drapo, wake up! Wake up! Drapo, wake up! Wake up! Drapo, you are the laziest man on Mars. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up.
Science were kind of my favorite subject. I didn't really like English in reading too much, but I've since grown out of that and I enjoy reading now. And I played a lot of sports. And all of that happened in a little town called York, Maine, across the United States from where we're talking to you right now.
Or watch it in slow motion. I'll kind of point those out, but just so you know, be prepared for those. Now, pay close attention to this helium balloon. Oops, did I say that? I meant shuttle. I want you to pay close attention to the launch pad below, and I'm sure you've seen before the roll program that the shuttle goes through or rolls onto its back. So here you see some cameras pointing straight down at the launch pad. During the roll program, the cameras should now be pointed away from the launch pad. You'll see here's the roll program. You'll see the sky changing as it rolls. Now let's see where the cameras are pointed. Well, what do you know? Pointed directly at the launch pad, exactly where it took off from. Just another sign of deception, and we can turn to this camera, and it's still looking directly down straight at the launch pad. What happened to its rolling on the back? So, hopefully you're starting to see and get the feel for what kind of video this will be. I'll be pointing out the errors, and you all will become like me, and never again see a launch the same way. Many will say this video is proof. Yeah, it's proof all right. Proof that we have all been taken for a ride. Now watch here when we see we're looking at the right side of the ship there, and also in this next scene we're going to be looking at the right side of the ship. Okay, that's the right side. See that black square up high and the shadow is cutting it right down the middle? Shadow's about halfway through the bottom of the orbiter. Until we go back to this view, again we're on the right side of the ship. There's the black square way up high. There's no shadow at all. Shadow again, moving across the bottom of the orbiter, but again, we saw it wasn't on the other side. Here's another classic Jokes on Us, looking at the ISS from 250 miles above the Earth, and now we see what the Earth looks like from 6 miles above. Should they look the same? I don't think so.
To introduce the concept of free fall. So let's use this model of the Earth, and let's enlist the help of a friend. Patsy. You might know her.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't figure out by now, I'm going to be the first man to actually tell you this, that teleportation is officially real. We are live in the ISS, and guess what? Teleportation is real. Let's go back and relook at that clip again. You see it now, watch. Oh, wait. See, this, ladies and gentlemen, should let you know that this is only done through the usage of chroma key. This is chroma key technology. This is green screen or blue screen technology. That's what is being utilized here. This is simply virtual reality that is actually being fed to you, and you're taking this virtual reality, making it the reality. When in fact, all this is simply just virtual CGI, computer generated images that are simply being utilized to aid with these missions of the ISS. Now, I'm going to make this as short as I can. Anyone that has experience with chroma key, or anyone who has experience with virtual reality, to better make things work like what you just seen in that video there, how this thing just magically appeared out of nowhere, this doll, this toy, you need the aid of either a blue screen or a green screen to successfully make this virtual reality appear nicely and go nice and smooth. Now, this scenery is properly staged. That's something you have to know. Everything is staged. You cannot do things like that, what you just seen, that virtual reality. In order for for them to do that scenery to be like that, it's properly staged. Now, for those that are still skeptical, let's go to the American side of things and let's see, again, we're still at the ISS, the International Swimming Station. Let's go and see what they have to offer, and hopefully you will be able to understand exactly the deal with chroma key and feathering and all those kinds of effects. Let's take a look at the American side of things. Now observe this next clip. What you are simply seeing is the usage of CGI, and this is 100% proof that this definitely cannot be real. These people cannot be in the space station or so, as they claim. When you look at this, I want you to see this man's arm disappear right in front of you as he goes in the corner. You see that? Once again, first of all, you may think that your eyes are simply tricking you, or you are probably just seeing things and it's not real, but I'm assuring you right now, this is very real. This is the footage that's been obtained from NASA itself. So what you are seeing, this is a raw footage that has not been tampered with. This is directly from the so-called ISS, the International Swimming Station. So you decide for yourself. If we have the technology to build the space station and have people go and live in the space station for months and months at a time, and they are there constantly reporting back to Earth the things that they are finding there, then the question is, why go through all this trouble as far as faking the space station itself? Why go through the trouble of faking these people in space who are supposed to be the astronauts who are in space and have their arms disappear from the screen just like that? Why have that? Why go through all that trouble? In addition to this, let me point out to you that they've done a sloppy job that allowed them to be busted once again. So the question is, will you trust these people? Are they trustworthy? Well, I'm not going to make the decision for you, but I'll help you understand what you're dealing with. If these people can go through all the trouble of faking the moon landing and writing it in the history book saying that they landed on the moon when they didn't go on the moon, in addition to this, also have the audacity to fake the ISS and fake the people who are in space to the point where their arms disappear off the screen, and also at the same time fake teleportation stuff using CGI and all that nonsense. The question is, will you still trust them? Well, I'll let you be the judge for that. Yay or nay, that will be for your own to decide.
So this has been something that's been nagging away at me for quite a few weeks now. One of my more recent little obsessions, if you will. Because it's prompted me to start to wonder if in any of the footage of the so-called real spacewalks, or EVAs, extravehicular activities, in any of the space programs, because I've been wondering if I could actually find a singular piece of footage which undeniably shows the astronaut going from inside the craft or space station, being in the artificial atmosphere inside the cabin, to putting on his spacesuit and having the airlock open and then floating out to the exterior. You would think that this would be a simple enough piece of footage to find. After all, 2015 marked the 50th anniversary of the first EVAs in history. That's 50 years of spacewalks now. And you'd think that there should be copious amounts of footage from handheld cameras or other cameras showing uncut, unedited, continuous shots of any astronaut going from within the cabin outside into space. So this is what I've been looking for, scouring as much footage from the early Gemini and Russian EVA missions to Apollo to the space shuttle and then on to the Mir and International Space Station missions. And sure enough, I can't say that as of yet I found anything which represents this kind of unedited, continuous shot. We can find lots of footage taken from outside, showing the astronauts supposedly exiting the hatch. And we can find footage of the astronauts prepping and putting on their suits in what is clearly an air-filled environment. But the question of trying to find something which shows them undeniably going from the interior pressurized cabin out into the vacuum of space, for the life of me, I cannot find this. And again, when we consider how many Hollywood movies incorporate scenes involving the airlock, because of just how much danger is involved, and not to mention how much just personal excitement would be experienced on the part of the astronaut getting their first look at space from outside the vehicle. It's really hard to comprehend that no one ever considered capturing such a piece of footage. If I were to come across footage that seemed to undeniably show this, it'd be really hard to explain it away. It would be a really difficult thing to fake. And that's the whole point. Because if you are familiar with all the kinds of critical observation that has been done on things like the ISS or so many of these other space missions involving space bubbles and harnesses and all these very peculiar anomalies, it makes a lot of sense. Because obviously the ways that they are having to try and fake the interior shots of the ISS or any other spacecraft or space station with simulated zero gravity would be quite different from the ways that they fake the outside shots using blackout pools and things like this. So going seamlessly from an interior shot in an air-filled cabin to a pool filled with water obviously would pose a whole host of problems. So I suppose this whole question might not be a definitive proof all by itself that they are indeed faking these spacewalks and space stations and everything, but I find it to be another very interesting example of these kinds of proofs by way of omission. Just like we never see astronauts pulling 360s out in space with a handheld camera, or the same thing on the moon. They never do a 360 and do a panoramic shot.
Hello, Star Wars fans. This is Flight Engineer Rick Mastracchio of NASA on board the International Space Station. Today is a very special day for all of us. Looks like we're having some communication issues. Looks like we're back now. To everyone on Earth, from the International Space Station, may the 4th be with you.
This pen is floating. How crazy is that?
Folks, you realize you just laid your ass off to your wife and your mother.
You don't have to shout, Raj. It's not like I'm an astronaut floating around in outer space. Oh, wait, I am.
So, is it everything you hoped it would be?
It's better. I wake up every morning and I just can't believe I'm on this incredible adventure.
Well, most fun is actually waking up every single morning and realizing that I am still here on the space station.
You know, there are breakthroughs in science that we don't even know. And education for that is very important, because this is the only way to suppress or kill all the magic that happens, you know, those who believe in the flat earth or things like that. That would not take us to a good end. because this is the only way to kill, to suppress or kill all those who believe in the flat earth or things like that. To suppress or kill all those who believe in the flat earth. Kill all the magic. Those who believe in the flat earth.
You know what's interesting about assassination? Well, not only does it change those popularity polls in a big fucking hurry, but it's also interesting to notice who it is we assassinate. Do you ever notice who it is? Stop to think of who it is we kill. It's always people who've told us to live together in harmony and try to love one another. Jesus, Gandhi, Lincoln, John Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, John Lennon. They all said, try to live together peacefully. Bam! Right in the fucking head. Apparently, we're not ready for that. Yeah, that's difficult behavior for us.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, headquarters. Come in, headquarters.
This is Officer Clyde.
Use the code name,
Headquarters, come in, please. This is code name Hardhead.
Hard hat. Give me hat. Hello, radio dispatch. This is code name Hard Hat. Code name Hard Hat. Do you read me? Over.
Was that lard ass?
Hard Hat. Code named Hard Hat. Do you read radio dispatch?
Hey, got something for you, lard ass.
Hard Hat. Hard Hat. Do you understand?
Lard ass.
Hard Hat. Radio dispatch. Do you know who this is?
No, who is this?
This is Sergeant Stadinko.
Oh, yeah? You know who this is?
No.
Bye-bye, lard ass.
I've often stated, truth in the movies lies in the news. This is a perfect example that proves that fact. They don't care if you realize the truth they put in these fictionalized stories. He's supposedly remembered the Braille Bible, the King James Version, and here it clearly states heavens with an S. But if you look in the King James, that's gone. You need to look at the ESV version to find it now. It used to read heavens, plural. But of course, that's been changed. Now, if you'd have seen this here in a broadcast news event on your local newscast at 11 or 10 or whatever time they show it, 5-7 days a week, you would believe it. That's how they fool us. They use their programming to feed you scripted news accounts of fictitious space events that did not happen. But it's said in a news context so that you'll believe it. This stuff here is dropped in these movies. It's tongue-in-cheek. They made a mistake. No, just truth in plain sight.
Next time you book a vacation, you can consider a hotel stay in space.
Tech startup company Orion Span is working on a luxury space hotel. It's called the Aurora Station and boasts an impressive 16 sunrises a day. Trips are 12 days long, and it only will cost you $9.5 million for that 12-day stay. The space station is expected to make its debut in 2021. Whew. Hey, but just us normal people can go to space.
It is a strange thing how little, in general, people know about the sky. It is the part of creation in which nature has done more for the sake of pleasing man, more for the sole and evident purpose of talking to him and teaching him, than in any other of her works, and it is just the part in which we least attend to her. John Ruskin. In this offering, I will share reality, perception, wonder, archetype, and hopefully a sprinkle of wisdom regarding the sky luminaries. Many are looking to the horizon, to the shape, to computer screens, to other land, to mental models, but not many are looking up at what is actually real and observable. Most notable in the luminaries' mysterium is what we call the sun, an epic and enigmatic source of real cycles, real energy, and real wonder. There is nothing new under the sun. Truth is singular and eternal. The sun is a focal point of life-giving heat and light. Only a fool states they know what it is. The close sun within our realm makes one full westward revolution every 24 hours, spiralling out and gradually faster to the Tropic of Capricorn on the winter solstice, and spiralling in and gradually slower to the Tropic of Cancer on the summer solstice, thus giving us the seasons. Looking to the west, we can see a sunset move slightly to the right, curving around on its path. And close to the summer solstice, in northern Norway, we can see the sun never sets to the observer. Here is another way to view the summer solstice. The smaller dome here is a human's observable area, and the larger dome could be presented as a flat sky. This is still an unknown. Here is another way to look at the equinoxes. From Tenerife in June, the top is what the human eye observes, and below is what is really going on. The analemma is where one takes a photo or plot point of the sun at the same time of day, from the same location, over a year. This is from Hong Kong in the Northern Hemisphere, and there is a bigger loop for when the sun is in the Southern Hemisphere, because the sun covers more distance there in its orbit. This clearly shows that the orbit of the sun expands and contracts. It matters not if the analemma is taken from the equator or from the Southern Hemisphere either. The southern loop is always bigger, as one would expect. Here in Stellarium, I have set the time to 5 PM in Europe, faced southwest, and turned on the ecliptic, which is the sun's path. When we keep jumping 24 hours ahead, we can see the Sun has completed one orbit each time, and in late May we can see it's getting higher in the sky towards the summer solstice on the 21st of June, and then starts to go lower in the sky towards the winter solstice in December. Don't let anyone sell you the 23 hours and 56 minutes a day nonsense. In real life, as it shows in Stellarium, we can see only a section of the night sky. When we move, our vanishing point also moves with us, and therefore what we can see in the sky moves with us too. We know the sky appears to the eye as a dome, but this could be due to perspective. I mean, here it looks like the ground goes up and that the tracks go together, when we know these aren't true. The human eye's vanishing point shows us a visual reality that is not always objective. We simply have not unravelled the flat sky or dome mystery yet. This is all new. This awakening of true cosmology only made a comeback in 2014, the year I also first spoke out about it publicly. In many cases, we need to revel in the mystery and enjoy the mystery. The Sun comes into the observer's vanishing point. This is known to most as a sunrise. The Sun goes out of the observer's vanishing point. This is known to most as a sunset. If we go up in altitude, the Sun comes back into one's field of view as the vanishing point has increased. When the Sun sets in Japan, it's at its zenith in Madagascar, and also rising in Florida. Some ballpark trigonometry shows the Sun is around 2,000 to 4,000 miles away. Well, that is, if it is an actual thing within the rules of known physics, which it possibly isn't. Now, these sunrises and sunsets often appear as different sizes. This is due to one or more of the following: the observer's position, land contour, sea temperature, atmospheric haze, and atmospheric temperature. So how high is our Sun? We have seen evidence of localized hotspots. This blue sky layer is around 15 kilometers thick. Why it's blue, nobody really knows. Some say scattering, some say ionized gases, others say plasma. The truth is, it is also a part of the luminary's mysterium. This puppy isn't 93 million miles away. If you believe that, then you've had too much exposure to government scripture. I've even heard rumours that some lovers love each other so much that they have a child, and then they give the child away most of the week to centres that program them with government scripture. But that's all for another time. The Sun doesn't have flares, but it does have sunspots. Nobody knows what these are or what creates them, but they do help us prove that the Sun above oscillates, which appears to the observer as rotation. The actual light of the Sun does many wondrous and irrational things, near impossible to work out logically. Here is the model for sunlight observation for various months. Actual sunlight at any one time is never the same for two different observers. Sunlight has evidence of curve, bend, bulge, mystery, beauty and wonder. The reasons are unknown, and that makes so many uncomfortable. We don't even know if it is really an object. We do know it is a focal point of light and heat. For me, it is probably intelligent consciousness in some way, maybe half in this reality and half in another. It could just be far beyond our comprehension altogether, a reflective or geometric masterpiece of spiritual consciousness, a luminary of the mysterium. The sun has been worshipped and measured for aeons. The Aztec sunstone calendar marks our present world as the fifth sun to them. The Aztecs saw themselves as the people of the sun, whose divine duty was to sacrifice blood to provide the sun with its nourishment. In India, the Konark Temple of the Sun in Orissa from at least 2000 BC has complex and intricate sundials. These 24 wheels use complex and detailed shading and measures a magnitude of different units of time and cycles, mostly from sunlight. All around the world there are symbols for the sun, and temples aligned to the sun, marking the solstice and equinox. The Roman Emperor Constantine, pretty much the founder of Christianity, was a sun worshipper, even after he gave Christianity to the masses in the early 4th century. He also changed the day of worship from the Sabbath to Sunday. The sun was a big part of the secret recipe for the Hermetic alchemists, for the creation of the Philosopher's Stone. And it sits at the centre of the Kabbalistic tree of life. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it states in 11.22.31, sight, visible form, and the reflected image of the sun within the aperture of the eye all work together to reveal one another. But the original sun standing in the sky is self-manifested. Similarly, the Supreme Soul, the original cause of all entities, who is thus separate from all of them, acts by the illumination of his own transcendental experience. As the ultimate source of manifestation of all mutually manifesting objects. Democritus, in BC, said a quote that will help us as we continue through the other luminaries. It will be apparent that it is difficult to discern which properties each thing possesses in reality. The moon is the other large luminary in the sky. It has always been an enigma. It has always been worshipped, and its energy through its mystical phases affect much life in this reality. A mystic once said, "Look at the moon in the sky, not the one in the lake." Another said, "Moonlight drowns out all but the brightest stars." A Taoist author once said, "The moon does not fight, it attacks no one, it does not worry, it does not try to crush others, it keeps its course, but by its very nature, it gently influences." The moon is the same size and distance as the sun, and follows close to the sun's path, the ecliptic. The moon takes about 24 hours and 51 minutes to complete a revolution above us, slower than the sun. The moon is always close to the ecliptic, within 5 degrees above or below. It also comes and goes, just like we saw with the sun. The moon crosses the sun's ecliptic approximately every 2 weeks. These crossings are known as lunar nodes. If it crosses the ecliptic at full moon, we have a lunar eclipse. If it crosses the ecliptic at new moon, we have a solar eclipse. Remember this for later. The moon takes an average of 29 days, 12 hours and 44 minutes to go through one lunar month, one lunar cycle, from new moon through waxing, full, waning, back to new moon. Because of this motion, the moon has a point in time each lunar month when it is closest to the Earth, perigee, and a point in time where it is farthest from the Earth, apogee. The sun moves faster than the moon. The sun catches up with it, creating a new moon, and then speeds ahead of it. More accurately here, we can see the lunar phases are caused by the relative geometry of the moon to the sun in the flat Earth sky. These two luminaries are linked by what one could call pranic, magnetic electro, or chi energy. The first quarter moon is when it is half illuminated, and occurs when the Sun and Moon are 90 degrees apart in the sky. At full moon, the Moon is fully powered and fully illuminated, when the Sun and Moon are 180 degrees apart in the sky. The Moon self-luminates and self-deluminates. It powers up and powers down. There is evidence to suggest this geometric relationship creates the tides in the oceans too, as salt water is ionized and can react to magnetic electro. Another way of talking about the motion of these luminaries is to say the Moon travels 14.5 degrees an hour and the Sun 15 degrees an hour. So the Moon loses 12 degrees a day on the Sun. People are okay that the Sun is self-luminating, so people should also be okay that the Moon is self-luminating too. A nice way to remember if the Moon is waxing or waning is if it is like a letter C or D. A cat goes, waning, and a dog comes, waxing. These phases can be known far into the future due to the Sun and Moon's constant speeds. This works as a geometric clockwork, a calendar in the sky so to speak. Chinese, Thai, Hindu, Islam and Hebrew calendars still today are linked to the Moon cycles, the lunar month. If one photographs the Moon 51 minutes later on successive days, note due to the Moon rising about 51 minutes later each day, over one lunar month it will trace out its own analemma. The Moon can be seen above in the sky at the same time in distant places. Depending on where one is on a line of longitude, depends on what degree of rotation the Moon will be. To a stationary observer, the Moon also appears to rotate as it moves from east to west in the sky. This is only due to perspective. The Moon is not actually rotating. It will appear to rotate one way until it is above one's head, and then the other way. Regardless of location, every human on Earth has only ever seen one face of the Moon. Therefore it is rational that it appears to many human subconscious and conscious mind as spherical. In a waning phase, the closer the Sun gets to the Moon, the more power, or self-illumination, the Moon loses. And when the Sun is very close to the Moon, it loses its power, it loses its self-illumination. The Moon disappears. Some say we should really see a black silhouette. We don't though, we see nothing, and can pick up nothing with cameras or telescopes. It's just not there. This new moon really could be just that, a brand new moon, and we will layer up on this information later. Then a few days after new moon, at the waxing crescent phase, one can see the slither become illuminated, and the moon starts gaining its power again. Even at other times during the lunar cycle, we can very rarely see something appear to go through the moon, and in this footage it is unknown if this is a star, wandering star, or high altitude drone. At other times, the moon appears as though the blue sky is coming through the moon, but the moon is higher than the layer of blue sky. So is the moon semi-transparent here? Is the moon not totally there in these instances? When the moon is half illuminated, is the other half there or not? Again, the luminaries mysterium has not given us a clear and rational answer as yet. We don't know. We have to continue to revel in the mystery. We don't know what the moon is. We don't know what craters are. In truth, they are just different shades of light and dark. Worth noting though, that in the electric universe community, laboratory experiments using electric arcs by plasma physicist C.J. Ransom created craters. Is the mainstream story for the 22-degree halos another wild myth? It's almost as if the moon and sun are piercing into this reality, or piercing into a layer in our sky. Both look like spheres to our subconscious, but simply this cannot be so. The moon gives us energy for sure, but whether it is a projection, an actual object, or even an old malfunctioning sun, we don't know. The word eclipse comes from a Greek word meaning abandonment. Quite literally, an eclipse was seen as the sun on a solar eclipse and moon on a lunar eclipse abandoning Earth. The lunar eclipse is only possible exactly on a full moon, when the sun and moon are directly opposite, and also when the moon is at the crossing point of the ecliptic, at the lunar node, when H1 and H2 in the image are at the same altitude. This is all akin to a super tight and accurate astrological aspect of opposition. Any solar year has a minimum of 4 eclipses, 2 solar and 2 lunar, and it is possible to have up to 6 or 7 eclipses in a single solar year. The moon is full, fully charged, and then it loses power, preparing energy, retracting. Then it sparks, surges, pulses. The moon becomes reddish as it continues its potent energetic link with the sun. A pranic or magnetic electro handshake with the sun. Blinking, flickering. It seems to be a reset of sorts, or more wildly, a malfunction or false kickstart of an old sun trying to recharge itself. And then it regains power. The lunar eclipses are seen where it is night time, and over a massive land space with the same intensity. They last for a few hours, much longer than the minutes of a solar eclipse. The change in colour during a lunar eclipse is seen simultaneously by people in different continents, and because of this, the obstruction theory from old Vedic myth is impossible. The theory that it is obstructed by another celestial body, such as Rahu, Ketu, Shadow Planet, Mount Meru, Black Sun or Lilith, is easily debunked, as it would only be visible in a small location. You see, with this lunar eclipse, any obstructing body would be huge, many times bigger than the moon. The solar eclipse has caused fear and been associated with myth, legend and superstition throughout history. Even today, an eclipse of the sun is considered a bad omen in many cultures. Esoterically and astrologically, I would say never make a big life decision near or on an eclipse, only unless you really know what you are doing with bringing the energy down and harnessing it. Predicting eclipses has been going on for millennia too, as early as 600 BC by Thales. Saros astrology can predict eclipses, and this goes back to Chaldean and Babylonian astronomers. A solar eclipse is only possible exactly on a new moon, when the sun and moon are directly together, and also when the moon is at the crossing point of the ecliptic, at the lunar node, when H1 and H2 in the image are at the same altitude. This is all akin to a super tight and accurate astrological aspect of conjunction. Now, many strange humans think there is 93 million miles between these two luminaries, and one is 400 times bigger. This is where the moon is. It cannot be anywhere else. But as we saw earlier, the moon is transparent, stroke disappeared, at this time. We believe the moon is passing over the sun. It should be. But looking at these filtered images, nothing is there. It matters not what one does with telescope or imagery software, one cannot find a trace of the moon. It is as though the sun eats itself. It's really important you understand the moon is not there. Then you might wake up to the magic and mysticism of this realm we are in. Totality during a full solar eclipse can only be seen from a very small area on Earth. This area is usually about 100 miles or 160 kilometers wide, and about 10,000 miles or 16,000 kilometers long. Areas outside this track may be able to see a partial eclipse of the sun. This thin strip is pure flat Earth truth, as a shadow is never smaller than the object casting it. There is a whole host of geometry in the sky when looking at various combinations of wandering stars, but no evidence of spheres, rocks, gas giants, light years, or any other of the government fairy tales. The wandering stars are each magnificent and radiant forces of energy that contain the human psyche and our subconscious archetypes. The wandering stars have many tables of classification and attributes. They also link to the days of the week, and this star shows the order too. Now, in the time of alchemy, Greek mystics, and then the Renaissance period, many mystics created art of what is known as the celestial spheres. This isn't calling any wandering star a sphere, or showing their distance, or physical order. These show the levels of vibration, the levels of frequency, from a spiritual perspective. They always take the order Earth, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, the firmament of fixed stars, then into the world of divinity, the premium mobile, paradise, infinity. Many allude to the idea a council of gods reside here, each from one of the celestial spheres, each of the wandering stars. Through the celestial spheres, into heaven. Even Dante alluded to this in his cosmology, as did Robert Fludd. But what does this all really mean? This is all Kabbalistic, the soul's journey to Godhead while within the body, within the same carnation, starting at 10, the 4 elements on Earth, up to 1, the Godhead. In Kabbalah, when we actually see a wandering star with our eyes, for example Jupiter, this is the densest of the 4 worlds within that luminary. There are another 3 levels of vibration spiritually for each wandering star that the eyes cannot see. And Kabbalah uses these forces as a climbing frame and roadmap, so to speak. Many of you have fear of this information and call it bad, but Kabbalah and rays of energy in this realm are neither good or bad, they just are. The key is really the individual's own level of purity. I go into this much more in a book I wrote over 10 years ago now. Now, Cornelius Agrippa was a German theologian and Christian mystic. He wrote the Arbitell in the early 1500s. In his system, he created a clean and divine way, using the correct day and planetary hour, of having commune with the God force from each of the celestial spheres, from each of the 7 sacred wandering stars. also known as the Olympic spirits from ancient Greece. These are like the one thing on a lower arc. They are fragmented aspects of its power. The Arbatel tells us that Olympic spirits, well, gods that rule the wandering stars, inhabit the firmament, which was the air and regions of space that held the stars together. The job of these gods is to declare destinies so far forth as God allows them. The gig here is not to worship the Olympic spirits, but to balance them in oneself and then move on to attain a unity with the God who expresses itself through these 7 rays. In the great book Corpus Hermeticum, it states in the book of the Sacred Sermon, "And the gods were seen in their ideas of the stars, with all their signs, and the stars were numbered, with gods in them." Also, "And heaven was seen in 7 circles, its gods were visible in forms of stars with all their signs, while nature had her members made articulate together with the gods in her, and heaven's periphery revolved in cyclic course, borne on by breath of God." Now for me, one reason for the NASA mind control and fake cosmology is that they really don't want people knowing this stuff. They even have so-called truthers, spiritualists, religious people, and New Agers against this information too, cowering in fear, unable to objectively research. You see, this magical realm we are in, if known by the masses, would bring their whole physical-based system of control, greed and selfishness down in no time at all. So they spend hundreds of billions of dollars bringing everything into the dense physical. They are hiding divinity every way they can. You see, people walk past a statue of Michael or Mary, no problem. People put a priest between them and God, no problem. But talk about the gods within the celestial spheres, the Olympic spirits, and people freak out. The levels of conditioning are far beyond what is rational. And where do you think the Olympic rings came from? The blanket of fixed stars all move in unison, as one, with next to no evidence of any parallax. The blanket of stars are probable to all reside at the same altitude, behind and higher than the wandering stars, and probable to be somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 miles away from Earth. There are under 10,000 stars visible to the naked human eye, and because of the human eye's vanishing point, one can only see less than half of those from where one stands. Before we look at the blanket of stars' speed, motions, patterns and mystery, let us look closely at what they could be. What are the stars? We don't have the correct labels in our vocabulary. The words that arise for me are geometric, intelligent, fractal, divine, holographic, interdimensional. Some even appear as diamonds. Some hollow. Is water involved? Is solar-luminescence involved, where high-frequency sound waves in liquid cause a bubble to implode into light? Are cymatics involved? The language of resonant frequency? Some even think stars in this reality are technical and related to these metal balls that are said to fall to Earth. If one zooms past a star and then increases the brightness, it can appear to the eye like the star is indented into the firmament. This is 160 times zoom, at sunset, with clear visibility. We just don't know. The luminary's mysterium cloaks its secrets from us. The blanket of stars revolve around Polaris, the North Star above the central North Pole. With time-lapse we can see this, day after day, rolling out the lie of four motions. To find Polaris in the northern sky, just look for Ursa Minor or Ursa Major. From Chicago we look north and we see the stars rotate around Polaris. And from Paris. And from near Japan. This is from southern Spain. The stars complete one cycle, stroke one revolution, every 23 hours, 56 minutes and 4 seconds, making them a little faster than the Sun, with the Moon being the slowest of the three. Here is a macro way to present these northern star trails. To get a good idea of the motion of stars, we need to look in different directions. Here is from Arizona, in southern USA, looking west, looking east, looking north, and looking south. There is a ring of 12 star constellations behind the ecliptic, known as the signs of the zodiac. This is the same even if one is in Chicago, North Mexico, southern Chile, or anywhere on Earth. So if one splits the circular 360-degree ecliptic up into 12, one gets 12 times 30 degrees, each being a sign of the zodiac, which all takes 23 hours, 56 minutes and 4 seconds to revolve above us. These constellations appear upside down to people in the southern areas of Earth, for the simple reasons shown here. As the stars take 23 hours 56 minutes 4 seconds to revolve, and the Sun takes 24 hours to revolve, every 30 days or so, the Sun enters a new sign of the zodiac, and then will spend around 30 days there until the zodiac has overtaken the Sun again. This can be seen here too, with the zodiac being the outer thin ring of 12 signs. First we will move 2 hours forward a click. Then if we move 10 days forward a click, we see the zodiac speeding ahead, so the Sun therefore travels through the 12 signs of the zodiac over a solar year. Due to us knowing all of the main speeds in the sky now, here is the approximate time each luminary spends within each of the 12 signs of the zodiac. We will come back to the zodiac again soon. Many naturally think, whether under a dome or a flat sky, that all the stars move in unison the same way, but this isn't so. South of the equator, an observer can see a wheel in the sky to the south, spinning in the opposite direction. And here are more examples. So to get our bearings, let's look from one location. New South Wales in Australia. Looking west, looking east, looking north, where Polaris is too far away from the observer's vanishing point, and looking south. So this wheel at the south is interesting for two reasons. One, it creates a fractal if caught on time-lapse photography at different intervals, a bit like this. And two, because at 3 different locations on Earth, the exact same southern wheel can be observed in the sky. Again, this could be under a dome or a flat sky, but having the same 3 wheels in the southern sky is still currently fully unexplained, using the logic we know thus far within this realm. Some say reflective duplication. Some say it is the North Stars refracted, reflected, or warped in some way. Others say perspective, but super interesting and relevant is that this southern wheel also takes 23 hours, 56 minutes and 4 seconds to revolve. We just don't know all the answers to the luminary's mysterium. The precession of the equinox is a real phenomena. Over 26,000 years, the whole blanket of stars completes a tiny wobble, ensuring that the exact point above the north celestial pole moves in a small, super slow circle. This is all known as the Great Year. If we go as north as possible on Earth and look up with the equatorial grid on, Polaris is at the centre. Now if we turn the azimuthal grid on, we can see Polaris off-centre. And if we change the year by 2,000 year chunks, the whole blanket of stars moves ever so slightly. The Earth isn't moving or tilting or wobbling, it's the blanket of stars moving. This movement in the sky is very slow, 1 degree every 72 years, so 360 degrees, a full revolution, every 26,000 years. The motion of the stars is like this. The zodiac signs move in one direction on the ecliptic, but the wobble is in reverse, hence the words precession of the equinox. So recently, from the age of Taurus, through to Aries, through to the current age of Pisces, and soon into the age of Aquarius. On every spring equinox, the sunrise to the east has the current age behind it, and we are coming out of Pisces into Aquarius. And due to the 1 degree wobble every 72 years, every 2,160 years or so, humanity enters a new age. Here is the equinox sunrise for the year 4178, deep into the age of Aquarius. So the sun goes slowly through all 12 signs in reverse on the spring equinoxes, before completing the Great Year, the precession of the equinox. This new age of Aquarius is arriving within the next 200 years or so, Aquarius is open-minded, inventive, intellectual, reformative, and adventurous. It is also unpredictable, defiant, unemotional, and rebellious. It focuses more on the group than the singular. The current system in illusory Pisces is already in its dying days before this new age ushers in. Moving on, the astrolabe is a beautiful and intelligent device and can be traced back to around 200 BC. It has many uses, such as the sun's path and the time of day. It's made up of 4 plates and a ruler, and together each part has specific uses for measuring, observing, and calculating. The device can be used for star locations, cardinal directions, wandering star positions, sunrise and sunsets, eclipses, and so much more. And this still works today. No CGI and no Wi-Fi needed. Another device, the planisphere, can be traced back to the 1500s. This can display the visible stars in the sky for any time and date. And this still works as was designed. No 5G required. Both the astrolabe and the planisphere were totally designed within and for the Flat Earth Luminaries Mysterium. The zodiac signs are also related to the Tarot, the major arcana. And each third of each sign is assigned to a minor arcana. Both are shown here. The profane think Tarot is just for divination, but the Tarot energies are forever present through the sky, through time, fitting like a glove to the energies of luminology. It might be wise to ask yourself why astrology is not taught at colleges or universities. I have had over 100 Flat Earth astrology clients, and for a deeper look into the changes Flat Earth brings, plus more about signs, aspects, orbs and houses, please see my dedicated video on this same channel. There are Flat Earth zodiac clocks and zodiac symbolism all around old European churches, so it's a little bit strange that many modern day Christians look at astrology as something bad. So sit back and take in the next minute or so. The sky is a giant calendar. The sun tells the time, the moon tells us the day, and the stars tell us the months and years. We live inside a beautiful realm, a perfectly designed timepiece, with mathematics and fractals within its fabric. The sky is the only real tangible calendar. What else is there to live by? The toxic Gregorian calendar the Catholics fed you? Dates your boss tells you? Days of celebration your governments tell you? Or is it wiser to live by the energies and events in the sky, the dance of the luminaries, the art of astrology, which is happening above your head, and you don't give it a moment's thought because you've been conditioned not to care or wonder or contemplate? This realm is divine. It is created by higher consciousness, a higher power. The luminaries' dance of geometry allows the one thing to weave energy into this dimension through rays of energy. A subtle and gentle communication to our minds and souls, forever changing the permutations, creating a foundation of flux for this realm we are in, a realm of divine fractals hidden from our consciousness, so beautiful yet so subtle. The elite hide the truth of the luminaries as they are trying to limit the whole human experience to the physical. The physical is only a base, it's not the real thing. They want you pushed into the Sephiroth of Malkut, as a materialistic conforming drone. But we are both visible and invisible. We need to honour the totality, not just what we can touch. Da Vinci said, there are 3 types of people, those who see when shown, and those that don't see. And one starts to see only when one starts deprogramming. And it's not an easy ride, but it does get easier. This is the work of the modern day warriors, deprogramming. We don't know our cosmology, but we do know we are in a magical realm of divinity. Are you just coming from the mind to know the sky, or are you reveling in the energies and the invisible wonders of the Luminaries Mysterium? The Luminaries Mysterium is a key out of the Matrix, out of the cult-like scientism religion, but you have to embrace the sky's truth. Love the sky, a beautiful gift from our Creator. Many of you are trying to rationalize a divine mysterium, and one's life here is full of questions, but only fools are full of answers. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.637. And because all of us are bewildered by the illusory external energy of the Supreme Lord, we can see only this manifested cosmos according to our individual ability. Corpus Hermeticum, the secret sermon on the mountain. For I will sing the praise of him who founded all, who fixed the earth and hung up heaven.